We've waited 3 long years for this moment, Zach, and it's finally here. We're finally able to give our Story Archives treatment to quite possibly the best show on Apple TV, Severance. And we're back, or we're actually starting with Season 2, Episode 1, titled Miss Cobell. Oof. Yeah. What a opener. What an opener.
Incredible. I'm super excited to be covering this show. Hello, Miss Cobell. Great opening episode, honestly. Like, I loved the opening sequence with Marcus just running through all the halls.
Oh no, it was crazy.
That was so fun. I love that.
Right off the bat, I thought of the Kendrick Lamar music video. But
yeah,
we're jumping the gun a little bit because we're probably going to get some new viewers, listeners, wherever you're watching this podcast on. I'm Mario Busto, joined alongside
Zachary Newton, the other host. Welcome.
And if you're not familiar with us, we host a TV and film podcast, mainly TV, where we cover our TV shows episodically. We're actually in the middle of covering Silo Season 2 right now. And we're so excited for Severance that we decided to do the first episode of Season 2 first. But stay tuned if you're actually watching Silo to join us from that. And subscribe if you're out there. So, all right. The opener, about as wonky, about as trippy as possible. It opens up with, I wrote a note, but just the music didn't fit the vibe. I didn't really expect to be right back where we meet Mark, which is in these offices, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting to just go straight back in there with this sort of hangover situation where not only does Mark not know what happened, but we as the audience have no idea what happened after the pretty much freaking grand finale of Season 1.
Yeah. It's very interesting, though, because Apple's been doing this thing recently, at least on the shows that we've been covering, where the next season picks up exactly where the previous season left off. Yeah. Silo did that, and, looking at this, it did that as well. And technically, there was like a 5-month gap, according to what they say in this episode, between the events in Season 1, the end of Season 1, and this first episode, but you wouldn't know it, right? Like, unless they told you. It feels like you were just right back into the action. So I love that. I like that we don't have to have this long drawn out intro. It's just boom, you're there. You're seeing it happen.
Yeah, and look, one of the key, I think, themes of this episode is we have no idea how much we can believe what Mr. Milchick is saying here at all. But we're going to get into it. For those of you who are unfamiliar, this is going to be our instant reaction episode. We're not going to go as deep on this one, but we will be dropping a deep dive, which is a longer episode. This is going to be more around 10 to 20 minutes type of thing, probably 15 to 20 because the show has so much to discuss. And then the deep dive is longer, more than 30, 40 minutes most of the time. So stay tuned for that. We usually drop those Sundays, and you can probably catch these usually Thursdays or Fridays. So, all right. Yeah, we pick up. I honestly am of the mindset of not really understanding or better yet, not believing anything Mr. Milchick says at all. I don't even know if it's true that they're international superstars outside of this office, right? But there's so many unanswered questions. But I think the main purpose of episode 1 was to bring the gang back together in some sense, to make it work. And I will say, when you compare the writing of this show to pretty much any other Apple TV show, and it's not a knock on any of them, it's just more of a compliment towards this one being good. Everything is just top notch. And I've always loved Ben Stiller, by the way, who directed this first episode. And he's made this turn towards directing that's been incredible. If you look at his work from, he did a series of a Jailbreak, and I'm blanking on the name of it right now, but it was fantastic. I don't know if you could look that up for me. I think it was on Showtime or HBO. I forget. He's just taken this turn towards drama, but at his roots, he's also a comedic genius. Yeah, the show he directed was Escape at Dannemora. So he can do that turn towards drama directing, and this is the perfect blend of drama, thriller, sci-fi, comedy. There's a bunch of comedy one-liners in there, provided mainly by Dylan and Mark W., who is hilarious in this episode. And then there's just a bunch of wacky stuff, like the unexplained 8-year-old Mrs. Wong or Miss Wong, who's just chilling in the office playing little retro handheld kid games. And there's this weird sort of, I don't know how to put it, but obviously Mark's wife is Asian, okay?
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, because she's missing. I'm just wondering, she's missing. We don't know where she went, And there's just this odd, I don't know, why is this girl there? Why is there just a random child in this situation? And I'm just wondering if this is the child of Mark and Miss Kelly.
I don't know. It's very interesting. I mean, Mark's wife, who was unbeknownst to him in the severed world or whatever you want to call that, she said something that arose suspicion in season 1, and she got sent to, I can't remember where she got sent to. It was like
to that hallway,
testing.
man.
She got sent to testing or something like that. I don't know what that means. I have no idea.
Well, she also got sent to that hallway where she took the elevator down, which is the same. Unless I'm forgetting something here.
Yeah.
It's the same thing that Irving had, because the one thing we learned about Irving last season was, I mean, all of the characters are interesting, and I think the one we know the least about at this moment is probably Dylan as to how he ended up there. But Irving, as far as we know, was doing some sort of investigation into, he kind of wanted to go undercover as an innie, so to speak. And then when he finally meets his Audi and he's painting all these, black canvases with the hallway.
Yeah.
He's almost trying to break through to his innie, which is, if you remember, Irv, what used to have those visions of the black goo that would just go through all the office. That was coming, I'm assuming, breaking through that neurological barrier of his severed brain.
That's what it seems like. That's for sure.
Yeah. And I'm glad that he was able to kind of break through his heartbreak. In this episode, because I really thought we were going to lose him for a second. But once we get to the end and the whole gang's back together, it's interesting because it's not just that everybody's working towards one goal. It's that Helly's hiding something. She's the one who she's the only one who hid what happened to her when she woke up outside.
Yeah.
And we don't know why she's hiding that. So I have a feeling maybe there's some sort of double agent action going on there with Helly. And similar with Dylan, now he's gonna get this. What do they call it? Audi visitation or something like that?
Yeah, I don't know what the proper name would be, but he's gonna be able to see, I guess, his family from the outside.
Seemed to me like conjugal visits for Dylan.
That's what it felt like when he was showing that on. I don't like how Milchick was just like smiling at those blueprints so intensely. It's a little intimidating.
Do you buy Milchick's promise that there's no cameras and microphones?
No, I don't buy anything anyone says in there. Like, I don't know what it is about this show, but I get like this weird cross between like Silo vibes and, for some weird reason, Squid Game season 1 pops into my head. But I just think there's always, Big Brother watching everywhere in here. I don't think there's anywhere that your life is private. When you're on your, I guess, innie.
I think Squid Game comes to mind because of the tracking situation that Lumen is so far ahead of anybody working against them that you just don't know how far ahead they are in some sense, right? There's a lot of questions though, man. I mean, one of the things that stood out to me big time in this episode, aside from, did you catch the surprise cameo? I'm assuming there was multiple cameos in this episode from multiple celebrities or multiple actors, but did you catch the specific one during the video they were forced to watch about the macro data uprising? I
thought the video was hilarious, but no, I didn't catch it. Who was it?
The voice of the building, bro. The moment I heard it, I was like, that's eerily familiar, and I picked it up immediately. It's Keanu Reeves plays the voice of the building. So the whole time I'm watching that, I'm like, man, this is so meta. I'm assuming, I wonder if they asked him or if he's just a fan of the show and was like, can I just play some random character?
Dude, Apple has some crazy actors that just appear on their shows. I mean, they had Christopher Walken in season 1. Like, I always get surprised by who they randomly bring in. I did not catch that though, but that's funny.
Well, speaking of like the resources Apple puts behind their shows, I've never seen them do like a dedicated marketing push the way they did for Severance season 2. And it's kind of a perfect way to start the year. So it makes me wonder what else they have planned up their sleeve. I know a couple of shows that are coming that are going to be big, but I'm wondering what else they have in store. They literally had the actors from this show in Grand Central Station in New York acting as their characters I mean, I just have never seen this. There's ads rolling on social media. I've never seen them do that for a single one of their shows. I would have expected them to do something like that for Silo, but no, not even for Silo have I seen that.
No, it was a very interesting thing to see that on social. I loved seeing that though. I thought it was really neat. I also did you get the email from Lumen Industries?
No, I didn't.
I thought it was like spam for a moment, and then it like all came back to me. I'm like, oh my god, that's from the show. Apple did this so like extremely unoriginal Apple thing. Like it was just, it's not something they would ever do, at least in my mind. They sent an email about the show, but it was completely branded Lumen, and like it took me a few minutes to realize Apple sent that to me.
Where did you get that?
I got it. It was like a Apple TV Plus notification, email notification. It was one of the marketing things about the show coming out. It was surprising.
No,
but yeah,
that's amazing. You gotta forward that to me. I could have swore I heard somebody talk about that, but I think I missed it.
I will.
We won't talk about everything on this episode, but we can talk a little bit about the timing of what brings them back. I mean, obviously, we know the motivations of Mark. He's here to save his wife. That's the reason he agreed to be severed again. If he agreed, we don't even know if that's true necessarily. Same with Milchek's promise that if they decided to leave voluntarily, that there would be no issue. I don't believe that either. I'm assuming that would have been straight to their death. That's what I'm assuming.
Well, I mean, leaving, retiring, whatever. It's like this. I mean, you're essentially like killing yourself. Your innie is essentially dying. I mean, that was the whole thing between Bert and Irving. That's why Irving was upset in season 1, because Bert was going to retire. He's like, "Are you going to let him die?"
Well, in some sense, I don't know if there's a way to unify the brain again for these people, right?
Well, remember in season 1, I forget the guy's name, but I think it was Mark's boss back then, Mark S's boss. He had reintegrated, right? And he was having a bunch of dilute. Yeah, I know. I don't know if there's a way to do it safely. I mean, maybe that was just like some black market, I don't know, version of reintegration. It just wasn't great, but I would imagine there's some way to bring things back.
Well, it's either that or we're going to lose all these characters. So it makes me sort of wonder, which we'll get back to motivations in a second, or save that for the deep dive. It does make me wonder if maybe the Audis see it as a moral sort of issue now. Like if they don't go back, they're killing their innie, right? You know what I mean? This is like two separate people in some sense. In a weird way, it's not, but at the same time, it sort of is. So maybe there's some moral conundrum there. And then the thing that kept sticking out to me in some way, which is kind of brilliant, is that Lumen's a publicly traded company in this world, right? They're like the biggest conglomerate imaginable in this planet, right? So they are viewing the severance, sort of the severed state, as a political issue. So they can do shady things, but they can only do it here. So on the outside, they have to play it cool and politically correct with everything, right? For fear of some sort of uprising. So it's funny the way they twisted everything, like a PR, like a typical corporate PR twist, to make the macro data uprising a shining moment, something that Kier's appreciative of, to see their shortcomings, and you know how gracious of them to bring in more snacks and bobbing for pineapples, which sounds painful, to be honest.
It does not look fun. But I thought it was that video was so cheesy, but I couldn't help but laugh. It kind of reminded me of like, a little bit of like maybe Wes Anderson, films where you've got like that like claymation looking thing.
Yeah, it was claymation, type of stop motion thing.
Yeah.
The budget on producing that video alone is probably ridiculous. Like that little segment, that video, an animation company made that, and it was probably hundreds of thousands of dollars just for that. Maybe more, maybe a couple million, who knows?
It's the fine details,
maybe
man.
Not a couple million, but it definitely was expensive for sure. Like just everything is so top quality in the show. Have you ever seen that Kendrick Lamar music video? I forget which song it is, but they do that camera.
I have.
It's like a camera effect where it's like it pushes out and pushes in and goes to the right, and I gotta find it. I've watched that music video a million times, but now I'm blanking on the name.
Yeah, I have seen it. It's like that camera arm that whips around. Yeah.
He's like under an overpass, and there's like a bunch of people behind him. Super dope. I just thought the opening sequence was so incredible. the way they opened it up. I kind of want to even see it in the background. But
It was
anything else you want to
from
cover?
the song "Humble" from Kendrick Lamar.
Humble. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
A good one. Not in the instant reaction. I don't think so. I mean, I am honestly pumped for the rest of this season. I'm very excited to see where this story goes. I do think there's a lot of things that, I'm starting to have questions on. I am glad that, we kind of have a few things answered from season 1, but, I think I'm still trying to figure out what the heck the deal was with that mask dance from season 1. Like, that was the thing that was like so far out of left field. And, I was hoping to get some closure on that in in this episode, or at least early in this season, but you never know.
Nah, it's too early. It's too early.
Well,
all right. So let's wrap up instant reaction. I have so much more. I'm itching to talk about it right now, but we will see you all on the deep dive for Severance season 2, episode 1.
Perfect. Well, thank you for listening to this episode of Severance by Story Archives. You can find this podcast anywhere you find podcasts, Apple and Spotify podcasts primarily. You can visit us on YouTube at Soapbox Podcast Network. Visit a website at soapbox.house. Email us at contact@soapbox.house. And if you want to find some links to our social accounts and check out some of the micro content, some of the fun snippets from these episodes, you'll find links to those places on our website.
All right. See you guys in the deep dive.
Peace.